Hello, I'm Care Prophet, and I'm here to present to you the stories of three remarkable young ladies from our community and how they have dealt with 2020. 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm sure, has turned out totally different than any of us could have expected. It started out to be a normal year. It started out with celebrating New Year's Eve and New Year's 2020. We went through January and February and Valentine's Day and did everything as normal. But then as the spring continued, or we moved towards spring, it seemed that something was changing very quickly as the pandemic grew upon us. Today, we are going to spend the next 30 minutes hearing the stories of three very courageous young women as they have dealt with transition periods in their lives during this year. One graduated from WVU as the class of 2020, one high school graduate, and the other transitioned from 6th grade to 7th grade. Each at very young ages and at very important times in their lives, dealing with it differently than anyone has ever had to.
And for me, COVID started originally when it was the end of my senior year. I know a lot of people don't really care about prom and stuff, but when it's your senior year, you care a little bit more about it. We got sent home from our state tournament game and found out that our school was going to be shut down for about a month, and we all figured, we'd come back. Well, we never came back. So we missed out on our, traditional graduation, our proms, and really just getting to spend those last moments with your best friends that you've had for 12 plus years.
My 6th grade year, which was last year, our spring fling got canceled, and I was so excited for it because I had the perfect dress for the perfect theme, and it was just all amazing. And then I got the news that we're not having it, and we can't even go to school. Like, my world just crashed. I was just so excited to end my 6th grade year in a positive way, and then COVID came and everything changed rapidly, and it took a long time to adjust. And I'm still not adjusted, really.
Well, it was kind of a shock. Around March, they said, we're going to send you all home for spring break, and then we'll bring you back a little bit later. And we were like, okay. So I left all of my stuff in my apartment, expecting to go ahead and come back so I could make several trips to bring it back. And then as through spring break progressed, they were like, yeah, you guys can't come back. This is just too bad to have all of these students on campus. So they said, we're going to let it be virtual. And so that was a big change, to have very little instruction on how to go about my classes and try to learn for myself. And they provided all the tools that they could, which was good. So that was a change. And then instead of having several weeks to slowly bring things back home from my apartment, it was 2 days.
Next, we will hear Leslie and Lauren talk about how this school year is like no other school year before it, with virtual remote learning, and just how remote learning works.
For college, normally you would want, unless you sign up for only online classes, you would be in person every day. If you have a class that's maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays, for example, half of the class would go Tuesday and the other half would be online on Zoom, and then the other half would go on Thursday, and then the others would be on Zoom. For me, I've only taken 3 exams in person all year so far. All of my exams have been online. A lot of my professors like to use Respondus, which is an app that you can put on your computer, and they can see and hear everything you do while you're taking the exam. And then once your exam is over, then the videoing stops. But that's how a lot of my classes have went this year.
With me, at the beginning of the year before school started, you had the choice whether you wanted to go virtual, which was a whole different program than live grades. And live grades is like how our teachers will communicate to us, but if you went virtual, you didn't even use the same program. It was just their own little program. And you also had the choice whether you come to school, and I chose to come to school because I knew that virtual was going to be hard. Hard to keep up, hard to get that motive to get up and actually do your work, even though you'd had that temptation of getting on your Xbox or getting on your computer and playing the video games. I knew that would be hard, so I decided to go to school. And that was a good decision that I made, because now, me being in virtual school and I have no choice, I can definitely see that virtual school is so much harder.
For me, even with the COVID, I would choose to go to school in person as much as I can. Like all my classes that I can go to in person, I do.
Now we turn to Hannah and how her college graduation was very different than she expected and different than any other WVU graduate has experienced before her. She also shares what it was like getting and starting her first post-college job during this very difficult, unusual time.
We had graduation, and I kind of expected a graduation like all my friends had. I thought I'd get to walk across the stage and wear my blue cap and to receive my diploma and hear my name. And instead I got to, this was probably nicer anyway, I got to sit at home at my kitchen table with my mom, and we had breakfast together, and we watched the virtual ceremony online, and I got my blanket and my pajamas on, and we heard the speeches, and that was it. And I mean, honestly, that was probably the most informal and shortest graduation ceremony that I've been to, which is kind of nice anyway, I guess. But it was strange. And luckily, I had received word that I would receive the job, so I didn't have to interview for that any differently. But entering the workplace with masks on and trying to get to know everybody, it was pretty different. And it was kind of strange. Everybody's kind of teleworking, so that not too many people are in the building at the same time. So people are always in and out, and it was kind of hard to learn the new job without so many people to guide and train me. So there were just a lot of obstacles to overcome this year, and overall I think it's best to remain positive, and these obstacles make for, stronger character. So I'm glad that I came through all of this and have learned a little bit about myself and how to overcome things through the process.
Now Leslie shares her experience of meeting at Westside High School to drop off her graduation cap and gown, and how it felt seeing her friends after being apart for months. Many had been a part of her life for more than 12 years. Leslie is a member of the Westside High School graduating class of 2020. She and her classmates had to say goodbye in a way they never imagined.
I know for us seniors, when we got our graduation cap and gowns in the mail, we all had to meet at Westside, and we all had to kind of come in at different times. It was supposed to be a drop-off thing, because everyone was supposed to be social distancing and wearing their masks and everything to try to prevent the spread. Well, I just remember pulling into the parking lot down there, and everybody just saw each other, and we all just instantly started crying because we hadn't seen each other in months, and we knew that all of us were about to go our separate ways. I have some of my best friends in school in Ohio and other places. I'll probably never get to see them again.
I think it is safe to say that this experience has made all of us look at the world differently. For Lauren and Leslie, they have had to learn not only a different way of playing sports, but also different ways of looking at them in this post-pandemic world.
For me, being at Concord, when this whole thing started, I didn't really know if we were even going to be able to play sports in the mass, because I know a lot of people were talking about, people with asthma and everything, that it was hard on them. But when I started playing it was a challenge, but I kind of got used to it now. A lot of people are wearing the neck ones instead of the actual masks, and they seem to kind of help a little bit more because they seem to be a little bit looser and they help you to breathe a little bit better. But we are limiting our practices, most of them, to 10 people and under, like the guidelines say. And we've had 2 outbreaks with our team. One of them was including one of our coaches, actually. And I have found that it spreads very quickly. But with our practices and everything, we're cleaning all of our equipment and everything. So everybody uses the same weight room, all the athletic teams do. And we are trying to space out in practice and just kind of group ourselves instead of practicing as a whole team.
With me doing volleyball, because that's the only thing I've basically done this year school-wise, we'd obviously put up the net and everything, and whenever we play volleyball in practice, we'd have like 15 different balls, and we'd try and keep each girl 6 foot apart and do drills that, well, like I'm a setter, so I do like setting drills, and girls who play back row a lot, they'll do bumping drills, and girls separated and not touch each other's volleyballs because that's how germs spread more often. And whenever we do have to hit the same volleyball, we would hand sanitize it and hand sanitize ourselves. We'd go through like half a bottle every practice.
After seeing sports on TV where players and a very limited number of people were the only ones permitted into games and practices, I was curious how things were different for Lauren and Leslie as they have continued their sports throughout the pandemic.
It's a lot different, I'll admit that, because I mean, just like our rival games we used to have with Westside and Wyoming East, the crowd was the energy of the entire gym. And without really that, you rely on your teammates a whole lot more to build your momentum up in that way, because that aspect of your game says a lot. It helps.
With me, where Palmville's close to where family is, just not having family there has really changed me a lot because I just miss them being there and them being able to watch me just grow in my skills of being a volleyball player. It's just really changed a lot.
I know at Concord we aren't sure about how we're going to be able to even do the spectators. We're not even sure if our parents are going to be allowed actually to even come watch us play this year.
From there, I was curious about how, at their levels, being middle school and college, it was determined who and how many people could attend events and under what circumstances. Lauren explains how the West Virginia color-coded map applies to sports, and Leslie provides insight into the college sporting world.
We actually have like a code thing at my school. If we're in green, then you can have grandparents come and siblings come, but if you're in yellow, then I think it's only grandparents, I think. And if you're in gold, then just parents. Orange, you're just the practices and red, you're out.
Now, at the college level, are they using the color-coded map, or do they have another system?
Oh, honestly, colleges, we're just going on until somebody tells us to stop right now. All the athletes at Concord got sent home, I'm wanting to say on the 10th, and then we were able to come back until the 20th. And our team got put on quarantine the second time, and then every athlete got sent home because they said that the athletes were where it was spreading out, which is understandable. We're all in groups. Every day we use the same equipment. Even though we're cleaning it, things do happen.
Beyond volleyball, Lauren also cheers and does gymnastics. Here is what she had to say about cheerleading and gymnastics during the time of COVID-19.
I also do cheerleading, school cheer, and gymnastics. And cheerleading, I was so looking forward to doing that because I just love cheerleading. Cheerleading, I've done it since I was in 2nd grade. So I've done it for 5 years now, and it's just like got such a special place in my heart that when I got the news that I'm most likely not going to be able to cheer this year at all, I just was so upset. We'd have to do cheers in our masks. We could not take our masks off for nothing. So that was probably one of the biggest things that really hit me, because we have to be loud for the crowd to hear us. And it'd be hard to breathe in and use our diaphragm to really escalate the cheers. And some cheers were already hard enough to hear. And now with the masks, I have no idea how the crowd was going to be able to hear it. I also do gymnastics, and gymnastics, where I go, they use security precautions big time, which that's not a bad thing. And whenever you first walk in, there's stairs that go up, and there's a girl there who will take your temperature, give you hand sanitizer, and you'd have to wipe your shoes off before you could even just go upstairs. And whenever they call you to go out onto the mat, they social distance you and everything, and they give you numbers on your wrist so then you can kind of stay with your core group, so then less germs can spread like that. And they have 3 different sections for you to go to. You have to use hand sanitizer before and after at each section, both the spotter and you have to. And after everybody leaves, then they spray the mats down, and it's really changed a lot, because I'm used to just walking in there, getting shoes on, going out and doing my thing and be done. But now there's so much more extra steps that it gets a little confusing after a while.
I couldn't help but ask them about the now famous cardboard cutout audience members.
But I have not seen any cardboard at all. Cardboarded people and printed.
I would feel like that would be kind of odd to have in the bleachers, honestly, as a player.
Yeah, just them smiling at you, and then out of the corner of your eye, you just have the cardboard box just staring at you, smiling. I'd be so creeped out.
Now we go back to Hannah as she shares what she is doing as her first post-college job and how COVID is affecting her work.
So right now I'm working on a master's certificate, and I'm doing this job as an intern. So I'm a soil conservation intern with the United States Department of Agriculture. And usually we go out and meet with landowners, and we try to get to know the landowners kind of on a personal basis, to work with them and kind of plan their farming techniques. And that's been difficult this year, because it's kind of hard to gauge how some of the landowners are taking the pandemic, and some of them are more afraid than others. And so it's been interesting to try to get to know the way around dealing with that. We drive out to people's farms. They call us up. They want to implement a practice on their farm, and we'll say, okay, well, this is a good place for that, and here's some other things you can consider. And we call them first name basis, work one-on-one with them, and it's usually a very personable process.
As far as like being out in the field doing testing, is there anything that you've had to do different because of the pandemic than what you learned in the classroom?
Not necessarily. The only different thing, I guess, is we have to take a lot more separate vehicles, and that's a little overwhelming. Having like 3 different government trucks drive up on your land is a little bit scary, but it hasn't been too different. We just kind of keep away from each other, and I'll dig the holes and step back, and someone else will come in and do some sampling. So it's not been too different in that process.
My next question involved learning how to do a new job under present day circumstances, and if she feels it will be an advantage or disadvantage once we can return to normal, or at least a normal.
Yes, kind of both. It's been harder for the older employees who have been there longer to adjust to all of these new changes in the way that we're doing everything. But me coming in and learning that off the bat has been good. But the disadvantage, I would say, to that is that when this is all over with, I'll have to try to figure out the way that it was, and I'll have to acclimate to that. So it's been both positive and negative, I would say.
One subject getting a lot of attention lately involves the effect COVID is having on holiday gatherings. Lauren tells us how her family found a creative and safe way to celebrate Thanksgiving.
We had to have our Thanksgiving dinner early because we had to have it outside. And the only time the weather was going to cooperate was yesterday, so we had to have our Thanksgiving dinner yesterday, and we'd have like camping chairs set out across the whole entire driveway, and you'd have to sit with your immediate family, and you just basically have to talk loud so then the person all the way on the other part of the driveway could hear you. When I'm used to all the cousins just calling in my room and sharing memories of whenever we were younger. And that's one thing that I really miss. And we'd have a table set out with all the food, and that immediate family would go up at certain times, and they'd get their food, sit down next, and all like that.
It can be easy, amid all the news, to forget about the simple parts of life that are only affecting a small part of the population, such as celebrating milestone life events with family and friends. Lauren tells us about her upcoming 13th birthday and how her celebration will be different.
My birthday is placed at an unusual time already, December 31st, and now Corona is here, and I will be turning 13, which is a milestone. And I can't even celebrate it with my family because we have to stay separate and we can't get near each other. And that's one thing that I'm not looking forward to. I'm looking forward to turning 13, but I'm not looking forward to not spending it with my family because really, I don't care about the presents. I don't care about how old I turn. Really, on my birthday, all I look forward to is spending time with family because that's something that really matters to me in my life is family. And I look at it as a blessing to have family come. And that's just one thing that really disappoints me.
It is truly amazing how much our world has changed in less than a year, and how each of us have had to learn and adapt to a pandemic which has altered every part of life for every person on a global scale. I found it amazing how well a 7th grader and college freshman have not only a great understanding of the situation, but also a level of maturity about it that should inspire us all as we continue to navigate our lives during this world health crisis.
I feel like nobody really saw this coming. I mean, I feel like everybody really kind of honestly took it as a joke at first because, you know, like you said, the whole toilet paper shortage and just people really didn't think a whole lot of it until thousands of people started dying. And you saw the numbers keep increasing on the news. And, you know, it started out in the states, you know, that weren't anywhere near us, and we were like, you know, oh, it'll never come to us. And then it got to our surrounding states, and I feel like that was when I really kind of started taking it a lot more serious. And then it hit West Virginia, and now, you know, our county has been in the red for 3 or 4 weeks, and now, you know, we've went back to orange. We've tried to bring our numbers down and everything, but it's here.
Yeah. I think when it first struck me was like you hear on the news, like, oh, China's infected and they've got this virus coming around, and I thought, oh, well, this is just going to be like the flu, a respiratory infection that's like not going to be any big deal, really. And when it really struck me was whenever they closed everything down, like everything was just in lockdown mode. And I thought the apocalypse was coming. It was just so different. And then I was like, okay, this is strange. And then it hit our state, and I was like, okay, this is like really serious. I think around that time was when it really hit me that I need to be more precautious about it.
I honestly think the only thing that we can do at this point, well, all of us, not even just people our age, is try to find other things that we can do, hobbies, to stay active and still be safe. I've been hunting a lot more. Being outdoors and everything, they say that this fresh air kills this thing. Well, as long as you're social distancing and you're outdoors and you're finding other ways to kind of cope with this, along with prayer.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I really feel like that we can do.
As we come to a close, I want to encourage everyone to open their hearts, to not be afraid, and to know that this will pass. Let us remember to be kind to one another, realizing how much hurt is all around us. Through kindness, love, support, and understanding, let each of us aspire to help each other and to realize we are all in this together, and working together we can and will get to the other side of this seemingly endless crisis.